In the dark living room of his Philadelphia home, Henry Wilson clutched his phone so tightly that his fingers were shaking. On the screen was a message from Charlie, his wife Lillian's lover. "Are you still sleeping with him in that bedroom?" Upstairs in their room, Lillian was laughing, unaware that Henry knew the truth. In his pocket was the key to the safe where the gun was kept. That night, the silence in the house was to be shattered. Henry Watson, a 38-year-old divorce attorney renowned for his sharp intellect, believed trust was the cornerstone of life. His 8-year marriage to Lillian was his refuge, a bond he thought unshakable. After a week in Chicago, wrapping up a high-stakes case, Henry caught an early flight to Philadelphia, 2 tickets to Hawaii tucked in his jacket. The surprise was for their upcoming anniversary, a chance to reignite their spark, dimmed by his long hours at the Center City firm. He pictured Lillian's smile as he revealed the getaway, a romantic escape to mend their time apart. But as his taxi pulled into their Rittenhouse Square brownstone's driveway, unease crept in. The porch light, always on during his trips, was dark. Henry grabbed his suitcase, the September night crisp around him. Unlocking the door, he expected warmth, Lillian's candles, the glow of a lamp. Instead, a chill hit him. In the dim light, a man's overcoat lay crumpled on the hardwood, tangled with Lillian's scarf. Men's loafers sat beside her heels, and a trail of items, socks, a belt, a blouse, led up the stairs. His pulse surged, breath shallow as he followed the path. From the master bedroom, soft laughter spilled through the cracked door, Lillian's voice, mixed with a deeper, unfamiliar one. Henry's hand hovered over the knob, a memory of their wedding flashing, Lillian in white, vowing forever under stars. The contrast stung, but he didn't enter. Rage flared, yet his courtroom discipline held firm. Acting on impulse would give them power. He retreated downstairs, sinking into his armchair at the stair's base, hidden from view. His fingers grazed the Hawaii tickets, now a cruel irony. On the coffee table, a wallet lay beside a wine glass. Henry opened it, finding a driver's license. Charlie Raines, 42, vice president at Meridian Corporation, Lillian's boss. A wedding band gleamed, and a photo showed 2 young girls, smiling brightly. Charlie was married, with a family. The discovery hinted at a pattern, not a one-off. Henry's jaw tightened. Lillian had been Charlie's assistant for 9 months, often staying late for deadlines. He'd seen it as ambition, proud of her drive. Now, those nights reframed as lies. The wallet's carelessness suggested routine, a brazen confidence. Henry cataloged the evidence, the coat, the wallet, the voices upstairs. He dialed David Harper, his law partner and friend. "Dave, it's Henry," he said, voice low. "I'm home early. Lillian's upstairs with her boss, Charlie Raines. Need you on standby, maybe bail or legal cover. No violence, just precaution." David's reply was swift. "Stay calm, Henry. Don't sink to their level. I'm here." Henry exhaled, grounded by David's steadiness. Charlie's phone, unlocked on the table, caught his eye. Scrolling, Henry found Emily Raines under favorites, Charlie's wife. He dialed, each ring tightening his chest. A groggy voice answered. "Charlie, it's past midnight. Where are you?" Emily's tone was sharp. Henry spoke evenly. "Mrs. Raines, this isn't Charlie. I'm Henry Watson, Lillian's husband. I found his phone in my living room. He's here, with my wife." Silence. Then Emily's voice cracked. "Lillian? His assistant? What's going on?" Henry didn't soften it. "I came home early, found their things. They're upstairs together. I'm sorry, but you needed to know." Emily's breath hitched. "He missed our daughter's birthday, said it was work. I'm done. I'm filing for divorce." Henry nodded. "I'll get his phone to you, Emily. You're not alone." Footsteps creaked on the stairs, slow and unsteady. Henry pocketed the tickets, his heart a storm of betrayal and resolve. He wasn't just a betrayed husband. He was a lawyer who knew the law's strength. Lillian and Charlie would face consequences, not through fury, but through truth's unyielding force. As the footsteps neared, Henry steeled himself, ready to face the collapse of his world. Henry Watson sat motionless in his Philadelphia brownstone's living room, the dim glow of a single lamp illuminating his steely resolve. The footsteps on the stairs grew louder, each creak amplifying the tension that hung like fog. Lillian appeared first, her robe loosely tied, her face paling as she spotted Henry in his armchair, his expression a mask of controlled fury. Behind her, Charlie Raines froze, clutching a glass of water, his casual arrogance dissolving under Henry's piercing gaze. The silence was deafening, broken only by the distant hum of the city outside their Rittenhouse Square home. "Lillian," Henry said, his voice calm but sharp as a blade. Explain why your boss is in our house at 1 in the morning. Lillian's lips parted, but no sound emerged. Her eyes flicked to Charlie, who shifted uncomfortably, clearly unprepared for this reckoning. Henry, it's not what she began, but Henry cut her off with a raised hand. Don't lie. I heard you upstairs. I saw the evidence. He gestured to the scattered belongings, Charlie's coat, Lillian's scarf, the trail leading to their bedroom. How long has this been going on? Charlie stepped forward, trying to reclaim control. Watson, let's not blow this out of proportion. It was a mistake, nothing serious. His voice carried a forced nonchalance, but Henry's eyes narrowed, unyielding. A mistake? He repeated, his tone deceptively soft. Your wallet's on my table, Rains. Your phone's here too. This looks like a routine. Charlie's bravado wavered, and Lillian sank onto the bottom step, her silence a confession. Henry leaned forward, his legal instincts honed. I called your wife, Charlie. Emily knows you're here. She's talking divorce. Charlie's face blanched, the glass trembling in his hand. You did what? He sputtered. You had no right. Henry's lips twitched, not quite a smile. No right? You're in my home, with my wife, and you want to lecture me on rights? Lillian's tears spilled over, her voice barely audible. Henry, I'm so sorry. It started 6 months ago. I didn't mean for it to go this far. 6 months. The words landed like blows, each one unraveling the trust Henry had built over 8 years. He thought of their quiet dinners, her late-night text about work, the doubts he'd dismissed. 6 months of deception, woven into the fabric of their life. 6 months, Henry echoed, his voice steady despite the storm within. A memory flickered, Lillian laughing on their honeymoon, her hand in his as they danced under a tropical sky. The betrayal twisted the memory, but he pushed it aside. Sentiment wouldn't serve him now. And you, Charlie? Henry turned to Rains, his gaze unrelenting. Is Lillian the only one? Or is this what you do, prey on assistants, wreck families? Charlie bristled, but before he could retort, Henry's phone buzzed. A text from David Harper, his law partner, checked Rains' file. 3 harassment complaints at Meridian, all buried. We've got him. Henry's jaw tightened. Charlie wasn't just a cheater, he was a predator, shielded by a company that prioritized profit over principle. I'm done talking, Henry said, rising from the chair. Lillian, our marriage is over. You know the prenup. You won't win a fight. Lillian sobbed, but Henry's focus shifted to Charlie. Rains, I'm not just coming for your marriage. I'm coming for your job, your reputation, and every dime you've got. Meridian will pay for enabling you. Charlie forced a laugh, his voice shaky. You're bluffing. You can't touch me or the company. Henry's eyes glinted with certainty. I'm one of the top divorce attorneys in Pennsylvania, Charlie. I don't bluff. I win. The room fell silent, the weight of Henry's words sinking in. Lillian buried her face in her hands, while Charlie's confidence crumbled, a flicker of fear in his eyes. Henry reached for his phone, dialing 911. This is Henry Watson, he said to the operator, his voice precise. I need police at my address. There's an uninvited guest in my home. Charlie's eyes widened. Uninvited? That's ridiculous. But Henry ignored him, providing details with the clarity of a seasoned litigator. As he hung up, the doorbell rang, sharp and insistent. Lillian flinched, and Charlie's glass slipped, shattering on the floor. Henry crossed to the door, opening it to reveal Emily Rains, her face a storm of fury. In her hand was a folder, thick with papers, emails, texts, evidence of Charlie's indiscretions, not just with Lillian but with others. Henry, Emily said, her voice trembling but resolute, I'm here to end this. Let's make him answer for everything. Henry nodded, a spark of alliance igniting. Emily's presence shifted the dynamic, her evidence a weapon in their shared fight. The police sirens wailed in the distance, closing in. Henry stepped aside, letting Emily enter, his mind already racing toward the legal battle ahead. This wasn't just about his broken marriage, it was about dismantling a system that let men like Charlie thrive. The Philadelphia brownstone buzzed with tension as Emily Rains stormed through the door, her eyes burning with a fury that mirrored Henry Watson's icy resolve. In her hand, a thick folder bristled with papers, evidence of her husband Charlie's betrayals. Lillian, slumped on the stairs, gasped at Emily's arrival, her tear-streaked face paling further. Charlie Rains, still clutching a shattered glass's remnants, took a step back, his earlier bravado crumbling under the weight of exposure. The living room lamp cast stark shadows, amplifying the confrontation unfolding in the Rittenhouse Square home. Henry closed the door behind Emily, his calm a stark contrast to the chaos. Mrs. Raines, he said, nodding to the folder. What have you got? Emily didn't hesitate. She dumped the contents onto the coffee table, printed emails, text screenshots, and internal Meridian Corporation memos. Charlie's been at this for years, she said, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. He targets assistants, promises promotions, then moves on. I found these after your call, Henry. He's not just betrayed me and our daughters. He's hurt others. The papers revealed a pattern: inappropriate messages, late-night meetings, and 3 hushed-up harassment complaints, all buried by Meridian to protect their star executive. Charlie's panic surged. Emily, this is garbage, he shouted, his voice cracking. Those are lies from jealous coworkers. But his denial faltered as Emily held up a damning photo. A hotel security still showing him with another woman, not Lillian, time-stamped last year. Henry's stomach twisted, not just at Charlie's deceit, but at the realization that Lillian was one of many. He glanced at her, expecting defiance, but she stared at the floor, her silence louder than any excuse. The betrayal cut deeper, a wound to the life they'd built. Weekend brunches, shared dreams, all tainted by 6 months of lies. Enough, Henry said, his tone final. Charlie, you're not talking your way out. Lillian. He paused, the weight of 8 years pressing down. I gave you everything: trust, a home, my heart. You chose him. Lillian's sob broke the silence, but she didn't respond. Henry turned to Emily. I'm sorry you're in this mess too. But we'll hold them accountable, legally, publicly, fully. Emily nodded, her anger hardening into purpose. I want full custody of our girls, she said. Charlie missed their birthdays, their school plays, for this. She gestured at the scattered papers. Henry, you're the best lawyer I know. Will you help? Henry's lips curved in a grim smile. I'll do more than help. Meridian's enabled him for years. They'll answer too. Charlie scoffed, desperation creeping in. You're insane, Watson. You can't touch me or the company. Henry didn't flinch. I've got the best legal team in Pennsylvania, Raines, and Emily's evidence. You're finished. Sirens wailed outside, red and blue lights flashing through the windows. Charlie's eyes darted to the door. You called the cops? He stammered. Henry nodded. You're an uninvited guest in my home. The police will handle it. The knock came, firm and authoritative. Henry opened the door, greeting 2 officers with practiced precision. Officers, thank you for coming. This man, he pointed to Charlie, entered my home without permission. I'd like him removed. Charlie protested, but the officers, sensing the domestic turmoil, were unmoved. They escorted him out, his shouts fading as they led him to the patrol car. Emily watched, her folder clutched tightly, a mix of relief and resolve in her eyes. Lillian stood, her voice barely a whisper. Henry, can we talk? Just us. Henry shook his head, his decision final. There's nothing left to say. You made your choice 6 months ago. Pack your things and go to your sister's. My lawyer will handle the rest. Lillian's shoulders shook, but she nodded, shuffling upstairs. Emily placed a hand on Henry's arm, a silent gesture of solidarity. I'll stay until she's gone, she offered. Then we can plan what's next. Henry exhaled, grateful for her strength. His phone buzzed, a text from David. Meridian's board is spooked. They've covered for Raines before. We've got leverage. Henry stepped onto the porch, the cool night air clearing his mind. The Hawaii tickets, now in a drawer, symbolized a life gone. But a new purpose stirred. This wasn't just about his pain or Lillian's betrayal. It was about exposing a system that let men like Charlie thrive. Emily's evidence was a weapon, and Henry's legal expertise was the trigger. He thought of Emily's daughters, caught in the fallout, and vowed to protect others from similar pain. As the police car pulled away, Henry returned inside, ready to strategize with an ally he hadn't expected. The fight was personal, but its impact would be far-reaching, a chance to rebuild justice from the ashes of his shattered trust. Henry Watson sat at his polished desk in his Center City law office, the Philadelphia skyline a gray silhouette through the window. Papers littered the surface, legal briefs, affidavits, and Emily Raines' folder of evidence against her husband, Charlie. At 38, Henry bore the weight of Lillian's betrayal, but his resolve had sharpened into a weapon. Days had passed since the confrontation in his Rittenhouse Square brownstone, and Lillian had moved out, taking only what the prenup permitted. Charlie was out on bail, but Henry's battle was far from over. Across from him, David Harper, his law partner, sipped coffee, his eyes scanning a file on Meridian Corporation. Rains is their golden boy, David said, sliding the file over. 3 harassment complaints in 5 years, all settled quietly. Meridian's board buried them to keep him closing deals. Henry flipped through the pages, his legal mind cataloging the details, payouts, non-disclosure agreements, and internal memos hinting at more unreported cases. They're complicit, Henry said, his voice steady. Negligent supervision, toxic workplace culture. We'll make them pay literally and publicly. David grinned. Their PR team's already sweating. Emily Rains sat nearby, her posture rigid but her expression fierce. I'm all in, she said, her voice unwavering. Charlie's not just a cheater, he's a predator. I've got more evidence. Texts from other women he pressured, emails he thought were deleted. She pushed a USB drive across the desk. I want him exposed, and I want my daughters safe. Henry nodded, impressed by her tenacity. We'll file 2 suits, he said. One against Charlie for alienation of affection, tied to my divorce. The other against Meridian for enabling his behavior. Your evidence, Emily, is our leverage. The strategy was bold but precise. Henry drafted a complaint against Meridian, alleging failure to enforce ethics policies and citing Charlie's history of misconduct. Emily's folder and USB provided a damning trail, messages showing Charlie's exploitation of authority, paired with Meridian's inaction. David reviewed the draft, nodding. This'll hit their stock price. They'll want to settle fast. Henry's thoughts drifted to Lillian's tearful exit, her apologies ringing hollow. The sting of her betrayal lingered, but this fight transcended personal pain. It was about dismantling a system that protected men like Charlie. A week later, Henry and David strode into Meridian's gleaming downtown headquarters, a process server and court reporter trailing behind. The receptionist's smile faded as they bypassed her, heading for the executive floor. Richard Tanner, Meridian's CEO, rose from his desk, his handshake offered but ignored. Mr. Watson, Mr. Harper, Tanner said, his tone smooth but guarded. What's this about? Henry handed him the lawsuit papers, his voice firm. Your VP, Charlie Rains, has used company time to prey on employees, including my wife. Meridian's negligence enabled it. We're here to hold you accountable. Tanner skimmed the documents, his jaw tightening. This is a personal matter, Mr. Watson. We can handle it discreetly. David stepped forward, his tone sharp. Discreetly? Like the 3 harassment cases you buried? We have emails, testimony, and a paper trail. This goes public unless you cooperate. Tanner's eyes flicked to the court reporter, transcribing every word. What do you want? He asked, his voice low. Henry leaned in, his terms clear. Fire Rains. Pay a 7-figure settlement to fund damages and a workplace reform program. And open your HR records to our investigation. Tanner's face paled, but he stayed silent, weighing his options. Back at the office, Henry met with Lillian's lawyer, Sandra Lowell, over coffee. Sandra, a formidable opponent, confirmed Lillian wouldn't contest the prenup. She's remorseful, Sandra said. She wants to move on, no fight. Henry nodded, unsurprised. The prenup was airtight, leaving Lillian with her personal items and little else. As Sandra left, Emily arrived, her demeanor lighter. I filed for full custody, she said. Charlie's history strengthens my case. Thank you, Henry. He offered a small smile. We're just getting started. That evening, Henry stood alone in his office, the city's lights twinkling below. The Hawaii tickets, now discarded, no longer haunted him. Charlie's career was teetering, Lillian was gone, and Meridian faced a reckoning. Yet victory felt incomplete. He thought of Emily's daughters, their lives disrupted by their father's choices, and resolved to do more than win a lawsuit. This was about ensuring no one else suffered under unchecked power. With Emily's evidence and David's support, Henry saw a path to justice, not just for himself, but for all those silenced by Meridian's complicity. He turned from the window, ready to press forward, his purpose clear. 2 years later, Henry Watson stood on the balcony of his modern Philadelphia condo, the Delaware River reflecting the city's twilight glow. At 40, the scars of Lillian's betrayal had softened, replaced by a quiet resilience. The man who once clutched Hawaii tickets, dreaming of a perfect anniversary, was gone. In his place stood someone stronger, shaped by loss but defined by purpose. The legal battle against Charlie Rains and Meridian Corporation had not only rebuilt Henry's life but also rippled outward, touching others caught in the fallout. Meridian had capitulated swiftly, settling for a 7-figure sum to avoid a public trial that would have tanked their reputation. The funds established a workplace reform program, mandating stricter oversight and support for employees facing misconduct. Charlie's fall was steeper. Fired from Meridian, he became a corporate pariah, his name toxic in boardrooms. Now working a low-wage sales job in Delaware, he scraped by, his income drained by alimony and child support. Emily Raines, granted full custody of her daughters, had turned her pain into power. With Henry's encouragement, she'd enrolled in law school, clerking at his firm during her studies. Last month, she passed the bar, joining the family law division as a fierce advocate for betrayed spouses. A framed photo on Henry's desk captured her swearing in, her daughters beaming beside her. Lillian's path was less visible. She'd relocated to a modest apartment, taking a clerical job and volunteering at a local community center, perhaps seeking atonement. Word reached Henry through old friends that she lived quietly, avoiding the social circles they once shared. She hadn't contacted him, and he didn't expect her to. The prenup had left her with little, but Henry took no pleasure in her struggle. His triumph wasn't in her hardship, but in the life he'd forged from the wreckage. Henry's firm had flourished, its profile elevated by the Meridian case. He and David launched a pro bono initiative, offering legal aid to victims of workplace harassment. Emily's first case as a lawyer, a young woman coerced by her supervisor, ended in a landmark settlement, with Henry mentoring her through every step. The work gave Henry a sense of purpose, transforming his personal loss into a shield for others. He thought often of Emily's daughters, who'd visited the office recently, their giggles echoing in the halls. Last week, he joined them for a picnic in Fairmount Park, tossing a frisbee and marveling at their resilience. Protecting families like theirs was the truest form of justice. His phone buzzed with a text from David. Team dinner tonight to toast Emily's latest win. You in? Henry typed a quick reply. Wouldn't miss it. Stepping inside, he glanced at a photo on his shelf, not of his old life with Lillian, but of the firm's team at a recent charity gala. Emily stood beside him, her smile radiant, her daughters clinging to her. The image captured what he gained. Allies, meaning, a community rooted in shared strength. The Hawaii trip, taken alone last year, had marked a turning point. Standing on a Maui beach, watching the sunset, Henry had felt not grief but closure. The ocean's whisper promised new beginnings, and he'd embraced them. The Meridian case had sparked broader change. Local media covered the settlement, prompting other companies to overhaul their HR policies. Henry's firm became a go-to for workplace misconduct cases, and he found himself speaking at conferences, sharing insights on accountability. Each talk reinforced his belief. Justice wasn't about destruction but about building systems that protected the vulnerable. Emily's work amplified this, her cases giving voice to those silenced by power. As Henry grabbed his jacket for the dinner, his thoughts lingered on the past. Charlie and Lillian had faced consequences not through vengeance, but through the law's steady hand. Charlie's downfall was self-inflicted, his arrogance undone by evidence. Lillian's quiet life reflected her choices, a reminder that actions carried weight. Henry, meanwhile, had found a deeper victory. Betrayal had shattered his world, but from the fragments, he'd crafted something enduring, a life of impact, surrounded by people who shared his values. Locking the door, Henry headed to the elevator, a lightness in his step. The pain of 2 years ago was a shadow, outshone by the future's promise. Justice, he'd learned, wasn't about tearing down those who'd wronged him. It was about rising above, becoming someone they could no longer reach. Tonight, he'd celebrate with his team, toasting Emily's success and the work they'd do together. The city hummed beyond his building, alive with possibility, and Henry walked into it, ready for whatever lay ahead.